everyone. Welcome to my very thoughtful world. Thanks for taking time to watch my podcast or listen to my podcast if you're listening to the audio. Today, I want to share with you guys how to write and self publish a book. First and foremost, over the years, I've self published 5 books. The very first book I wrote and self published was called Think Your Way to a Better Marriage. Listen, I wrote that book for a couple of reasons. And that's the thing, you need to know your why. Like, why are you writing a book? Some people write a book because they want to be a best-selling author, and that's great. When I first wrote my very first book, it was because I was told that a book would give me credibility. I was also told that a book is a great business card, meaning that most people get your business card and they'll toss it. But if you have a book and you give them a book, most people won't throw away a book. And even if they don't read it immediately, they'll put it on their desk. They may move it around. Oprah talks about this too, but she talks about how she'll get a book and she might move it from her desk to her nightstand, from her nightstand to her dresser, and eventually she reads it. So that's what I found has happened with my book. Not Oprah, not the Oprah part, but I like to talk about Oprah. But I've given out my book. I used to give out my book as like a free gift or when I would go certain places. And you need to know how to gauge the room. So if you're a coach or you're looking to get into the coaching game, an author or a speaker, be clear about why are you writing a book. Now, there is definitely the reason to write the book because you want to share your story, you want to get let people know what you've overcome. Those are great reasons. But if you're writing it from a business perspective, be clear. So, as I said, my very first book, Think Your Way to a Better Marriage, was simply written because I wanted to have a business card that people wouldn't throw away. And I needed credibility. So we had moved to Beijing, China, and I met a gentleman and he wanted me to come speak. And when I told him what I do as a coach, he was like, okay, that's great. And then I said, and I've authored a book. It changed the whole conversation because now he could put on his paperwork and promote me as I have an author coming to speak. Now he ran a group where he would bring young professionals in and share the journey. I did not get paid for this speech. Okay. I want to be fully honest with you. A lot of people are talking about, getting paid for speaking. And I know that is a gig. And I do, thank God today I get paid to speak. When I first started out, I did not get paid for the speech. And I understood even the value in that. I get it's a different time. I've been doing this now for at least 7, 8 years. It's a different time. Things are different. I'm just sharing my story. At that time, I had also listened to a coach who said, when you're starting a business, you do not need money, you need people because people have money. And what you want to do is you want to build credibility with people and you want to build that know, like, and trust factor. So I was in Beijing, China, very new to the country, obviously, but also new to the expat community, which would be ideally where I was looking for my clients and my customers. So I was being intentional about placing myself in front of every opportunity I could as a speaker, but more so as a coach. And that book really opened a lot of doors because whenever somebody talked about marriage or needing someone to come speak, they would invite me because, Kenesha's an author. Great. What that did was many people would read the book or brief the book, and then they would begin to want to have a conversation with me. What I loved about being an expat is a lot of the conversations was like over coffee. And then many of those flipped and became clients. And then I was offering retreats and like day workshops and those kind of things. And so these same people who met me because they came to an event where I wrote a book and maybe had coffee with me, then they would become my client, whether one-on-one or through a workshop. That was what the power of the book was for me. Now, over the years, when I began to write the second book and the third book I wrote simply as a mom. I wrote this book, and I happen to have one here with me. 1 second. I wrote this book simply as a mom. And the truth of the matter is, I had written this book over My child now is 19. I wrote this book when she was about 2 or 3 years old. Um, I wrote this book at a time when there weren't a lot of books for African American little girls. And growing up African American girl, I knew the importance, or I knew the importance of needing to see myself, to be validated, to feel um, as though I mattered. I needed to see myself. So I wanted my daughter to have that experience. Now my son is older, but I didn't have a boy experience growing up. So there was so much about his experience being a boy that I didn't really connect to. So even though he was my older child, I wrote this book for my daughter. What was interesting is I happened to go on an old computer, found the file, and was able to produce the book last year. I think 2021. No, it's 2023 now. Maybe I produced it 2021. I need to look to see. But either way, this book, I was very clear that I wrote it because I wanted to leave a legacy. So be clear about why you're writing a book. I literally wrote this book because I wanted to leave a legacy. I wanted my children's children to know how I think. I wanted them to hear words about themselves like A is for amazing Afro. You are amazing just the way you are. Your Afro is your glory. It's what makes you a star. I wanted them to hear things like G is for gorgeous girl. Gorgeous girl, you make the world go round without even trying. You are the talk of the town. Now, this was because I wanted my daughter to hear these things about herself and be associated with. Uh, I wanted her to be affirmed, to be associated with the alphabets. Like L is for lovely lady. A lovely little lady you are growing to be. Live bold and courageous and stay full of curiosity. I wrote this for her when she was very young. So then when I was able to produce it, even though I published this when she was like 18 years old, um, the notion was I wanted her daughter to know her grandmother or her great grandmother if I'm not here. These books, and then of course I did the one for the boys later, and I have one that's for multicultural kids. But these books was written for the sake of creating a legacy. I wanted them to know me. I wanted them to know the way I thought in my words. So I've never been chasing this ideal of I want to be a best-selling author. That would be bonus. But what I want you to understand is if you're deciding to write a book, one, you need to be clear about your why. Because if your why is to be a best-selling author or to make an impact with your book, it's a different journey. And I realize now that there are people now who become like a best-selling author on these lists on Amazon. And I think there is a thing you can do to do that. I haven't done the investigation because it's not that important to me. But there are so many great things about having a self-published book. The other thing I wanted to chat with you guys about is about being self-published. What does that really mean? Some people do self-publishing and they hire these small publishing companies that say they will help you self-publish. Now, to me, self-publishing it doesn't just mean that I wrote the book. It means that I have access to my book when I want it. I don't have to go to my publisher to buy my book. And to each his own. I have a different skill set than most people have. So I was able to do that. But I want to tell you why you may want to really do research when you are considering self-publishing. I've met people who self-publish through some of these smaller companies, and they call it self-publishing. So it's not a big publishing company, and you're published through a publishing big business company, and they writing you a check. No, from the smaller self-publishing books, you're typically writing them a check. And then they do things like they get your book laid out for you. They do all your design work. They create your cover. They will, when I talked to a company, they said, we would give you marketing materials, meaning they would make a poster or a flyer. They would give me bookmarks. These were the things that they was promising and they was asking at the time. And this was back in, I'm so bad with dates. So we moved to China in 2013. This was probably back in 2014, I think is when I published my book, self-published my book. So they was going to do all of these things for me, right? So they was going to do this for me for about $2,000, I think was the first quote they gave me, or maybe $2,500. So they was going to lay out my book, design my cover, put it on Amazon. That's the thing they promised. Oh, we'll put it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. They're going to make your book accessible on those platforms. And we're going to give you marketing tools like a poster, bookmarks, and and we're going to give you 5 books. So for $2,500, they were going to give me 5 of my books. And they told me if I needed additional copies, it was going to cost me, I think, $15 a book. Let's do the math. Okay, let's do the math. It's my book. So now I have to pay you as a company to get copies of my book. It didn't seem smart to me. But again, I get different people need different things. My background prior to being a graphic designer, prior to being a life coach, I'm a graphic designer. I'm a trained graphic designer, trained, certified, been doing this for over 20 years. I know how to design. I know how to do everything they told me they was going to do for me. The only thing I didn't know how to do at the time that they said they was going to do for me was I didn't know how to get my book to Amazon. Remember, this was years ago. It wasn't quite the information, the internet was out there, but it didn't seem quite as easy. But no problem. I knew I could figure it out. So what I did was I laid out my own book. I designed it, did my layout. I did pay at that time. This was I think before I knew about Amazon. Back then it was called Creative Suite, but now it's called Kindle Publisher. Before I used them, I used another company that I cannot think of the name of, but I paid them like $60 to upload my book to them. And when you upload it to them, now it puts it on Amazon and put it on Books A Million, Barnes and Noble. It makes it accessible to all of those sites. So here's what I need you to know. This is what I want to share with you. If you're thinking of self-publishing your book and someone tells you, well, I can get your book on Amazon, you can get your book on Amazon. If nothing else, go to YouTube. YouTube will walk you through the process. I want you to own your own book. If you're not a designer, you don't know how to lay it out, hire someone on Fiverr. It's going to be cheaper for you. Now, the thing may be you do need probably to consult with a designer to make sure you're communicating effectively with your graphic designer on Fiverr if you don't understand, if there's something about design you don't understand. The reason I want you to be the owner of your book versus going through a smaller self-publishing company where you're writing them a check instead of them writing your check, a branded publishing company writes you to pay to publish your book. These smaller companies, they charge you to publish your book. And I'm not knocking anyone's hustle. I just want you to know the facts before you go in. When you publish yourself, and like I said, and you upload it yourself through using Kindle Publisher, it'll walk you through the process. You now, when you need copies, you can order author's copies through Amazon. And I believe right now they're charged $5.65 to print your book. So if I literally go on my Amazon dashboard, Kindle Publish, and say, hey, I need 20 of these books, they're going to charge me $5.65. You cannot beat that printing price anywhere, or at least I haven't found where you can. So imagine I'm paying $5.65, then I charge $15.95 for my book. That means that I am profiting about $10 per book that I sell. If I was to go through one of these smaller self-publishing companies, and then when I need a copy of my book, I have to pay you to order my book, they're probably doing the same thing I'm doing. They're ordering it through Amazon for the $5.65. So then if they charge me, for instance, $10 per book, and then I sell the book for $15, now I'm making $5 on the book. You guys get that? Again, I'm not trying to knock anyone's hustle. I just want you to be informed. So today's podcast, I just thought I would come on and share with you the self-publishing process if you are truly self-publishing yourself. I do not understand the self-publishing process when you're paying someone to publish your book, but it's called self-publishing. Besides that one time when I talked to the company and it was listed as self-publishing, I told you they was going to charge me $2,500. At the end of the day, I was going to have 5 books in my hand for the 2,500, and then if I needed more books, I had to pay them to get more copies of my book. I wasn't I wasn't interested in that deal. If that works for you, that's great. Part of my coaching, I help professional women accomplish their goals. Whatever your goal is, your goal could be, Kenesha, I need to be in a better marriage. Kenesha, I need to increase my income. Kenesha, I need to publish a book. The thing you need in all of those situations, that is the reason my program is successful, is because you need confidence and a different mindset. In order to self-publish a book and then make money on it, I've met several authors who self-publish their book. They have a book signing, they have pretty pictures, but then their books sit on the shelf, or they don't really market their book. They don't make a lot of money on it. And I'll be honest with you, my first book, because I was okay with not making money on Think Your Way to a Better Marriage, because it was never written to make money. It was written to be my business card. I used it to get clients. So I wasn't out there trying to hustle that book. I wasn't out there trying to sell that book. This book is different. This book practically sells itself. This book has become a curriculum. This book has become a tool for educators. This book, or this series of books, right? It's a game changer. Children books are a game changer, just letting you know that. Organizations have bought my books. I've sold that book in big bulks. I have a lady who now is talking to me about ordering 500 of those books. That's a game changer. That book was written for a different cause. Know your why. But the reason my coaching program works for all of those different situations is because people think they need the know how to publish their book. You can YouTube that. People think they need to know what are they doing wrong that their marriage isn't working. It's not that. It's the way you're thinking. What my program does, it helps you with your thinking, it helps you get connected with yourself, it causes you to have more confidence, and therefore you take action. Listen, we will never move past the level of belief that we have about life. If you believe you can make $1 million and you really believe it, and you believe you're worthy of the $1 million, you're going to take action steps towards it. If you say, I want to make $1 million, but deep down you don't believe you're worthy of $1 million, you think that life is unfair and only certain people can make $1 million, and it's too hard, those thoughts are going to keep you from making choices and decisions to move you towards it. That's what my program does. It helps you get in the mindset to produce the life you want. That's why it works. So if you are the person who are watching this and you're like, oh, cool, Kenesha, thanks for all the information about self-publishing, go forth and publish your book. If you are the person who's like, okay, cool, you kind of told me about self-publishing, I don't quite get it, but I deep down know the reason I haven't self-published my book is because I have a lot of fear, or I'm insecure, or I have a lot of self-doubt, do my program. Because then alongside with me, just because I've been through the process, I'm going to make sure your book get published in the 8 weeks you work with me. But I'm also going to make sure you have the confidence and the clarity to go out there and sell and market this book so that it can make you some money. So there's not just another book on the bookshelf. Okay. So thank you for watching this very thoughtful podcast. Thank you for always tuning in, for following. And will you do me a favor? Will you subscribe, follow, like, and tell a friend about everything that's happening in my very thoughtful world? Again, I appreciate you so much. Have a wonderful, amazing day.